Mount Royal, Volume 1, by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. Chapter 1. The Days That Are No More. "And he was a widower," said Christabel. She was listening to an oft-told tale, kneeling in the firelight at her aunt's knee, the ruddy glow tenderly touching her fair soft hair and fairer forehead, her big blue eyes lifting lovingly to Mrs. Tregonell's face. "And he was a widower, Aunt Diana," she repeated with an expression of distaste, as if something had set her teeth on edge. "I cannot help wondering why you would care for a widower, a man who had begun life by caring for somebody else." "Do you suppose anyone desperately in love ever thinks of the past?" asked another voice out of the twilight. "Those infatuated creatures called lovers are too happy and contented with the rapture of the present." "One would think you had tremendous experience, Jessie, by the way you lay down the law," said Christabel, laughing. "But I want to know what Auntie has to say about falling in love with a widower." "If you had ever seen him and known him, I don't think you would wonder at my liking him," answered Mrs. Tregonell, lying back in her armchair and talking of the story of her life in a placid way, as if it were the plot of a novel, so thoroughly does time smooth the rough edge of grief. "When he came to my father's house, his young wife had been dead just 2 years. She died 3 days after the birth of her first child; and Captain Hemley was very sad and grave, and seemed to take very little pleasure in life. It was in the shooting season, and the other men were out upon the hills all day." "Murdering innocent birds," interjected Christabel. "How I hate them for it." "Captain Hemley hung about the house, not seeming to know very well what to do with himself, so your mother and I took pity upon him, and tried to amuse him, which effort resulted in his amusing us, for he was ever so much cleverer than we were. He was so kind and sympathetic. We had just founded a Dorcas Society, and we were muddling hopelessly in an endeavour to make good, sensible rules, so that we should do nothing to lessen the independent feeling of our people, and he came to our rescue, and took the whole thing in hand, and seemed to understand it all as thoroughly as if he had been establishing Dorcas Societies all his life. My father said it was because the Captain had been 6th Wrangler, and that it was the higher mathematics which made him so clever at making rules. But Clara and I said it was his kind heart that made him so quick at understanding how to help the poor without humiliating them." "It was very nice of him," said Christabel, who had heard the story 100 times before, but who was never weary of it, and had a special reason for being interested this afternoon. "And so he stayed a long time at my grandfather's, and you fell in love with him?" "I began by being sorry for him," replied Mrs. Tregonell. "He told us all about his young wife, how happy they had been, how their—"
Sample complete. Ready to continue?